This does not sound bad.
We were talking about the book the whole way here.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, now you don't have anything to say, so now.
How long was the whole way? Here?
Yeah.
Closer did you come?
About 20 minutes.
They live far away.
Alachua. Oh, okay.
I didn't know what deep on it.
No, I can't say I read the whole thing.
Well, it is a little bit repetitive.
Yes.
I mean, you know,
You get the
sometimes I had the feeling that, as I do with many books like this, it could have been really great after
Judaism.
about
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
and then
I
didn't read
had
it.
the same feeling.
Yeah, redundant.
every day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, and then there's, you know, he did a beautiful job with the note, I don't know if you saw the notes, which take up a
That's
third
right.
of the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, which is fantastic, but when we're reading it in this kind of setting, you know, we don't have time to look into all the notes and whatnot. Hi, John.
Hi, Jonathan. David here. I told Jonathan that he should never forget my name because he's Jonathan and I'm David.
That's right, and you have a special relationship.
We have a special love, yes.
Those are my kids' names.
Is it nice?
Someone said it's so corny, but I love it.
I have a cousin. I have a cousin who's has two children. This child is the first cousin. And one of the children's name is Asher, and the other kid's name is Lev.
Oh, God.
After that, and you know, like, so I said, you know, that's really great because of the book, and he looks at me and said, "What book?" You know.
Oh, wow, I can tell. That's quite
You know,
fun.
they live in South America.
This is brutal.
All right. Well, I hope, even though the book might have been a little long or repetitive, I hope you enjoyed it, the idea of it, and I'll start off by asking, what did anything surprise you about the book? Did you have any preconceptions about the role of love in Judaism, or any thoughts before you read the book?
Well, I'll start. First of all, I always think of what he does lay out here, that Christianity is the religion that's associated with love. You know, and he addresses that, we're the religion of laws and so forth, and it's the religion of love. So that was kind of interesting. Another thing that jumped out was, again, it's associated with Christianity, this whole idea of grace. And he goes through a whole long thing about what grace is and how it makes you a person of worth and what it means. So those were just two things that struck me. You asked, I don't want to dominate and say a lot of things struck me, but those were two things.
Anybody else? Any thoughts, or had you had that same thought about the role of love in Judaism?
What she said, yes. You said something that surprised you, something that I've never thought before, is when he says that the Shema is actually an invitation to love God and love others. And I've never I've thought of it more as something you should do rather than an invitation. They just put it in a different light for me.
And I think a lot of times we think of the Shema as the statement, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one," being the only essence.
Yeah. That's right.
And forgetting that there's a paragraph before and a paragraph after.
That's right.
The paragraph before talking about love, and the paragraph after talking about love. So what these two love paragraphs do is one is about how God loves us, the other is about how we love God. They are surrounded by this statement, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one," which is not just about, there's only one God. It's about placing that in the middle of this love relationship.
That's right.
And that is a central prayer in our tradition.
Which is an invitation.
Invitation.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I have not read the book.
Uh-huh.
I don't think Irving has either.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I don't have the ability. I have Mac, so I can't.
That's okay.
And if it's available, maybe as an audiobook, but
It is, and you can download it from the library, the Alachua County Library. And a couple of people have told me that it's much better
really,
to do the audio than the
Really?
Did you tell me that? No, somebody told me that the audio was more enjoyable. Or maybe it was my wife.
the author.
Just to get that right.
Shine.
The author is Shai Held, Held, Rabbi Shai Held. He's currently the rabbi at Hadar in New York. One of the rabbis. Had anybody ever encountered the idea that Judaism was only about legalism?
Oh,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
definitely-
almost the basic tenet of
Yeah.
Christianity.
Yeah.
So if that's what you grew up in, that was,
Yeah.
that's all law and now here's grace.
I'll tell you that it was probably 40 years ago or so, and I was doing a presentation on Judaism at a Sunday school, Methodist Sunday school, back when I lived in Pensacola, and that was the first time someone raised their hand and said, well, Judaism is about what you have to do and what you cannot do, and Christianity is about love. Had never even occurred to me until I was there, and I was, really shocked. And then when this book came out, I recalled that, that incident. Is there a difference between saying Judaism values love and Judaism is about love? Because the name of the book is Judaism is about love.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that encompasses the whole thing. Judaism is about love. The other kind of makes you think, well, yeah, they care about love, but that's not what it's about. It's about the law.
But that's not all it's about.
That's
Right. Oh,
You know,
no, of course.
And for some people say it's not even the main. I think that's what he's trying to. And what I was thinking about is how he tried to deal with through the book that in the Torah it says, you love thy neighbor as thyself. In other words, you love everyone.
Mhm.
And yet he says, and quotes several Jewish thinkers throughout the ages, that that's not humanly possible or realistic, and that you love different people in different ways according to how close they are to you.
That was a very interesting section. I mean, to consider, the complexity of what it is to say, we are going to be in a loving relationship does not release one from having feelings, maybe even negative feelings about a certain individual.
So the Torah was given to us. We
by grace. We didn't earn it, but it was because God loves us. And the way I liken it is to, if I tell a little kid, don't cross the street without looking both ways, then it's because I care and value the life of that child. I don't want them just willy-nilly to cross the street without looking because they might get hurt. So like with us, God gave us the Torah instructions because he loves us and he wants us to have blessings and do good.
Mhm.
And so that's what, so the giving the Torah was love. It was out of love. It's like, I love you guys. I want you guys to know what to do and not to do.
As opposed to saying, I'm giving you the Torah with all these rules in it because I want to see if you can follow the rules.
Yeah.
You know, can you follow the rules? You know, and I think that even many Jews misunderstand or sort of think that they're given a test as opposed to, you know, and Held makes a very good point in the second chapter when talking about mitzvot. He says the mitzvot, to do the commandments, is a kind of expression of love.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody ever experienced that or thought about that or? No, but there's somebody at the door, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not fortunate. It's fortunate, but yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I had to-
When you do good deeds, when you do something that's good for someone else, you reap the reward yourself. You get
Mhm.
it's not just spreading it forward, it's coming back. You feel better.
You feel better. Not all mitzvot, though, are necessarily just good deeds. Because some of the commandments may also have to do with, you know, observances, say something like Shabbat, and or something like being willful in making your food choices, taking care of the environment, how you just generally treat people in the world, you know, as expressions of, for Held, he's pointing out this can be an expression of love, not, you know, as a way of saying this is how we are going to express love. We can't walk around kissy, you know, all the time. By doing deeds, by doing things, we are expressing that.
It's also self-love that you feel the accomplishment of following what you think God wants us to do.
I think that there's truth to that. I think also a kind of understanding that I am doing this because I'm in a loving relationship, just as a person who might be in a loving relationship with another person says, can I help you with breakfast, or can I, you know, do something for you, as an expression of saying, you know, doing something is a way of expressing love.
I read a book once, I can't remember the name or the author, but it was a chapter in the book of a woman, and she was in prison somewhere in the bad world out there for her faith. And she would wake up in the morning, she said, and her first thing was she would say, God, whom can I love for you in here today? And that in the present, and that just gave her a free feeling of freedom and release, that she was able to do something in there, even though you're locked up in, you know, a small cell.
I really like that story. I like the story because I like the idea of thinking to oneself, how can I love today?
That's right.
Yes,
Yes,
How can I express
Express love
love
today.
today?
yes,
And it may be outwardly to another person, but as you said also, it may be in the way of
Expressing
kind of
gratitude.
an attitude, an
Gratitude.
inner, a feeling of an inner
and that's what she was saying. It
satisfaction.
gave her like a release that there was something that she could do in there, and she wasn't just a useless human being.
I liked his emphasis on yourself, how you deal with our very competitive society.
Mm,
I thought that was a very interesting aspect of it, in saying that you were created, by being created, you have worth in the eyes of God. And,
Yes.
and therefore, you don't have to keep proving yourself. And I think in our society, that's a very important message, and it frees you to be happier for the success of others rather than Schadenfreude or whatever. So I thought that was kind of an important, and that's an aspect of grace. I mean, if you're created, you've got this innate grace. You are worth something, whether you went to an Ivy League school or not. That kind of thinking.
and I will totally agree with you that the world we're living in can easily overshadow and I mean we can forget that there's a kind of inner grace to a person because I may not be the very best. I may not be the social influencer with 10,000 followers.
Right.
I spoke to someone a few weeks ago who said, they were a high school teacher. Said, well, many of my students, their goal in life, what they see as the highest goal in life is to be an influencer.
Yeah.
That's their highest goal, not to serve humanity, not to, give of themselves, and not to necessarily, love, show love to the world, but to be an influencer and be on social media.
Right.
At one time, it would have been maybe sports, to be a sports star
Right.
or an athlete.
Or a movie star.
Or a
Right.
movie star, So I mean, I think there are different competing values, but I think he does bring out here that Judaism offers us something, some other path of understanding the world, understanding life through this lens of love.
Yeah, I wrote that, and also what you said, three intrinsic dignities is infinite worth, equality, and uniqueness, which we get from that. Just pretty
Yeah, absolutely.
The quality part, I forgot about that.
Yeah, equality,
and
uniqueness, and
the-
infinite worth.
And infinite worth, and what was the third thing?
Uniqueness.
Uniqueness, those were
Yeah.
interesting.
Are these things that Judaism offers as far as love that Christianity and other religions do not?
well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, Joey,
Yeah.
take that.
so
Practicing Christian for 30 years. So what I will say is Christianity thinks they have the market on love. I'm just gonna tell you that right up front. They believe they have the market on love. I do not believe that they do. In fact, I think they are very misinformed. And
That's
I
correct.
believe that Judaism's version is much more authentic and much more meaningful, not only to oneself personally, but also out to the world. So, therefore, I am not a practicing Christian any longer and literally turned away from that. There are things that they call love that are super hurtful to other people. And so what I would say is I think though that they aspire to it, You know, some of the things that really touched me in the book were the fact that he's not afraid to talk about that influence or some of that similarity. Particularly chapter 15 really spoke to me very heavily, in that Christians like to teach that, you know, the most important commands are to love God and to love your neighbor. But now we come to, what does that mean? What does that
I
mean?
used to teach that.
Right? What does that mean?
Mhm.
And in fact, so since you brought it up, Jesus says that and emphasizes that. But one of the things that I love about Tovia Singer
Mhm.
is that if it's true, it's not new. And if it's new, it's not true. So the point being is, what I love about Judaism is, like, if, you know, for Christians who, like, you know, they have this and they want to come and they're like, and they want to tell somebody who's Jewish this, the person who's Jewish is going to go, yeah, duh. But you know, of course, that's like standard teaching. But the person who's Christian thinks they're really just bring this brand new, you know, revelation that they're just going to teach you all about. And I don't think they have a clue. They don't know what they don't know. That's
Yeah,
like the
and-
best way I can put it. They're not bad people, but they don't know what they don't know.
Because an existential foundation for Christianity is that is the law and it's done away with. You can't do it, and we have the corner on grace and love. That's really.
But when you really start
building
reading
brick.
Torah, and I'll tell you that Torah spoke to me like really, really heavily. And one of the things that I had heard this and I didn't understand it. Torah calls you. Torah calls you.
Invitation.
And I felt a call. And there's a gentleness to this call. And there's a kindness involved in this. And this is an invitation, you know, Hashem says, walk with me, walk with me.
So when you talk about Torah there, are you talking about study of Torah? I mean, or
Practice of Torah,
practice,
study of Torah,
and study.
taking when you read Torah, it's like God gives you a standard. This is the standard. Some of it is this is our story, but some of this is Sophia Yikra, for example. This is our standard. This is the standard. But when you see that and you see what the standard is, sometimes there are people who don't want to do that standard, but there's safety for yourself and for others and for the community in abiding by those standards. And there's so many positive things about it that I can't, you know, even when you don't understand it, when you do it, it's still positive. So I don't know. I hope
That's
that.
beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that. And the reason I asked the question is because, I mean, I personally would say that this act of study, you know,
Yes.
in Judaism that we do, you know, over our lifetime of learning, whether it's you know, the text of the 5 books of Moses or the text of the Tanakh or Talmud or Midrash, or, you know, or even this book, this idea of engaging in learning and study, understanding that itself, that intellectual pursuit, is a gift from God,
That's right.
is a love gift from God.
It is. It
Using
is.
your mind, engaging your mind, expanding your mind, and being able to occupy your mind, even if it's not in Jewish subjects. I mean, it could
Yes.
be in others. It could be in science. It could be in, you know, philosophy. That still can be a kind of recognition of what a love gift God has given me, in the ability
Absolutely.
to open my mind, to absorb something new, to feel that I can understand something that I didn't understand 5 minutes before.
Yes, sir. And even further, and then to contribute that to the world, what we've learned, right?
As it
And
says,
to share that in the positive way to contribute.
as it says in the in the paragraph before the Shema, this paragraph about love. When I was talking about love, to learn and to teach.
Yes, sir.
Learning and teaching both are acts of love.
Love.
Yes.
I always say, I was saying that I say since I was in my first years out of school, I used to say, I love my sober mind. It's a gift that I got.
It is.
It's a blank canvas, and I can decide who I allow to write on it.
Yes.
And I you're so right about studying Torah. Saturday Shabbat mornings. I love the 8:30.
Oh, yeah.
I love our Torah circle here at
It's super
12:30
precious.
on a Tuesday, up to noon on Tuesdays. It's wonderful
Yes.
because I always go away and I have a thought for the rest of the week. There's some stuff that Howard throws at us that I, or somebody else contributed
Mhm.
that I keep thinking about.
Yes. Yes.
So they engaging. And yeah, and life as a gift, the conscious to be able to learn. But I was thinking about the psalmist that really was like profound with me was when he was talking about the psalmist lament to God, and they lament their like sorrows and their disappointments and their anger. They get angry and they and about and about injustice too. And the one thing he said to me is like they're crying out to God is because they believe that God hears, God heals, God understands. We have this creator who's listening to us and cares about us and loves us.
Yes.
And if that weren't true, why even lament, And so we can be real.
Absolutely. Even in our dissatisfaction and crying. I mean, if the psalmist can put that into words, that's words that for us to be able to know and use and say, I hurt because of the injustice I see in the world, and that can be an expression of love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it can also be an expression of faith, I think he says, because you can
Yes.
envision a better world.
That's right.
So you have faith that things can happen, that things can
Can
be
change.
better, can change. Otherwise, you would be perpetually, you would be a hopeless situation.
Yeah.
So I like the way he put that too. Got to have faith that the world could be perfect, right? You have a vision of the perfect.
I like the idea that we're constantly trying the effort to make it better. The effort to make it better is really important. That people make that effort to make it better. That hope.
Yeah.
And that desire.
I mean, I think he says that in several places in the book that it's the effort, it's the action, it's what you do,
It's what you do. Judaism is what you do as opposed to Christianity. It's what you believe.
Well, but
There's
he,
more.
yeah, he does. Go ahead.
No.
Well, I mean, he does talk about the belief that because of grace and being loved, that the world could be better. I mean, that's a belief. That's not necessarily. I mean, hopefully you do something to make it better, but it is a belief that there's potential there, right?
Tenet of Christianity is that your deeds are nothing. The deeds mean nothing. It's just filthy rags.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you think of preordination.
Yeah.
That everything is sealed inside
It doesn't
before.
matter.
Yeah. Go
So
ahead,
there's
Julie.
something else that I kind of wanted to touch on is that I really like the idea of making space. So there's two things he talked about. I felt like chapter 15 could have been its own book. So, but he he says a couple things. One of them is that the active mindfulness of being in the present, in your worship of God, but also in your kind acts towards others, but also in making a space, a conscious effort in that mindfulness to make a space for Hashem in everything you're doing. That just that's really important. Like, I cannot express how deep that is and how important that is to be consciously making that effort to include and partner with Hashem in your just day-to-day being and your day-to-day actions. I cannot express that.
How would you say we make us? How do you make? Just to follow up on that, how do you make that space? I mean, is it by saying I'm going to make that space now, or is it something else?
I think part of it is consciously making the space.
Consciously making.
Because he says,
Right. It's practicing.
Okay, practicing, says Steve. Okay.
He says on page 30, I thought this was, and ties in with what you said, is to consciously always know that before God, you're never anonymous or faceless. So
You're never anonymous.
Anonymous.
Or
Anonymous,
faithless.
not faithless. So,
Yeah.
kind of always being aware that you're living in His presence.
Right, always aware you're living in his presence. I think including him, so to consciously do things and tell him, I'd like to honor you with my life today, what I do today, with what I say today, with
Would be like by saying blessings, for example.
part of it consciously making that effort to be loving, to be kind, to be gracious, to be. That's not an easy task, that's really tall order. I mean, so easy to say it, and it's so really hard to do it. It's a really tall order. And I call this out because he talks about Musar, and I really love Musar. I love the principles of Musar. And so and I see this as a working practice of Musar.
That's right.
So
Yeah, and this book sort of runs into this
Yes.
same. If we drew a Venn diagram, we could see how Musar practiced and what he's writing about, kind of come together.
yes.
I'll only add that when you started talking about making space, what came to my mind is the idea of prayer being a transcendent experience above the words of the prayer book.
Yes.
And that what you're actually doing, when you take a text and you say it every day, same words, the text has meaning and may have meaning in itself. But as you do this repetitively every day, multiple times a day, you begin to rise above the plain meaning of the text into a kind of a space where the text becomes a kavanah, an intention that I'm going to open up this loving space.
Yes.
And then we listen to music, for example, a song that we heard before, and it may not be saying, let me hear exactly what these lyrics are, but it may bring a kind of feeling, a memory, an experience above the music.
Yes.
And that's what I was thinking of when you were saying space.
I was
think
just
that's
telling
rare.
them on the way here, when I'm like mind numb, when I get to that point where I just am mind numb, sometimes I will just go sit and put my headphones on and put on Eros Ramazzotti. And because I can't understand a word that the lyrics say. So I don't want to understand the lyrics. I just want to enjoy the music. So if I can't understand, so I know what you're saying
So
about
it-
something,
it-
it just lifts you out of that, bubble you've worked yourself into, and your
Mhm.
brain is just not thinking anymore. So I know, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Sometimes the words, as you say them over and over, they get, I love the part in Proverbs, my son, take my words, put them as a necklace, write them on the tablet of your heart. This is Torah that you're supposed to bind on your neck like a necklace and write on the tablet of your heart. And these things don't get on the tablet of your heart unless it's every day. So every day, they have to be every day. And they have to be in front of you every day, and be intentional every day of what you're going to do. But I think about that because when rabbis are saying that, you're praying that at some point, this is in your heart and it's in your mind, and this is what we do. These are the words we say, and these are the words we do. We don't just say them, we do them. We live them.
So what about people or groups we find it difficult to love?
It's funny when you say groups. One day we were at Circle Minion a few months ago, many months ago. 10 years ago. And we were talking about, the environment and greed and all this stuff. And when we left, I said to Madeline, I said, I really hate humanity, humanity. And she said, oh, you got to love people. And I thought about it, and immediately I said, I do. I love people. I don't like groups. I don't need to love every group of people. But no matter what group you're in, if you come into the room, I'm going to treat you with respect, kindness. I'm going to be a loving person. That's what I want. I don't care who you are, what group you're in. I'm going to treat you. Now, maybe you're a really despicable person. Okay, then I may, keep away from you. I won't have a relationship with you. But I'm going to give everybody, that initial. I will always try to be a loving, kind person. And let me just finish real quick. When I was in the hospital, and I've spent a lot of time in hospital, as you have, but I, as a patient,
It's better to give than receive.
that's right. And I thought, I just want to be. I want to turn off the TV because you turn on the news and we all hate each other, and so I just want to be kind and nice to everybody that comes in. And I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there would already be a needle in my arm drawing blood. And I would wait and I would say, thank you very much. Have a great day. Just trying to be, and I wasn't always successful. There were times, by 8 a.m., 30 people have walked in the door, knocking on the door. They pick and pull. And sometimes I would say, I just can't stand it anymore. Can you please shut the door? Don't come in until, at a certain time. And I always regretted that, because sometimes I would not be loving or kind in the hospital bed. But anyway, that's just.
He discusses a lot, it seems to me, love versus kindness. And you may find it hard to love everybody, but at least you should be kind and
That's what he
treat with
said.
respect
Yes,
That's right.
others.
yes.
Sometimes even that is hard, but
There was a cashier at Publix many years ago. This was one of the meanest people you've ever met in your life. She was not only mean, she was rude, and she would insult you. It was just horrible. And I thought, I'm gonna break that. I'm just gonna go in and every day I'm there. Hi, how are you? You know, and she ended up saying, hi, David, how are you? You know, and it just happened.
That's true. That's a
It's
true
lovely.
story. I remember her clearly. You dreaded that you had to go there. She didn't treat your groceries so nicely.
A lot depends on the situation. You know, I got off of a plane yesterday coming back from Israel, and I said this earlier today. You know, after I started a 12-hour plane ride, really happy with everybody, really happy with the whole situation, feeling good about my trip. But after 12 hours on a plane with these people who were sitting around me, I really couldn't wait to get off the plane. People were, every one of them was annoying me in some way. For after 12 hours.
You were ready to love them.
Yeah. No. We've landed. Get off the plane. Go.
I love you way over there.
Yeah.
Is it,
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
is it possible to not like someone and notice myself not liking them and at the same time being able to let it soften because I'm opening up to a greater awareness, not by leaving that thought and that feeling, but allowing myself to feel that hate or or not liking and let it breathe, but not let it be the final word. In other words, let it soften at the same time. That's been helpful, or I'm trying to do that. It's been pointed out to me, and it was sounded like good advice.
A neighbor who has harassed me basically since Trump ran the first time. And by harass, I mean in kind of a playful way, but kind of a mean way. He's an avid Trumper, which I'm not, sending me emails every day with little
Yeah.
clips and so
Oh,
forth.
my.
Almost, it went on almost every day. And I
Oh,
asked him
my.
to stop. I said, please don't do this. And he's right across the street. And he walks his dog. I see him all the time.
Oh, my.
And it just didn't stop. And, I was almost on the verge of, getting a desist order, but he was also friendly, how are you? And he talked nonstop, so you could never get a word. It was never a conversation. It was just his
Oh,
views of the
yeah.
world. So, standing in the street. But now he's not well. And, and we still exchange, will you pick up my mail? Will you take in the trash? That kind of thing. And so I have sympathy for him and try to treat, no matter what, I've always said, Doug, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are things going for you? Always trying. So I guess that's an expression of that, someone that just annoying is putting it mildly. I mean, it was just nasty in a way.
But that's expression of kindness.
Yeah,
and love to me.
but I just have to try to see that the man is kind of suffering. He's fallen a few times and he's been in and out of the hospital and blah, blah, blah. And trying to see his humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I won't mention names because you all would know who I mean because you all know the people. But there were two people that I know. There are two people I know, and one is, as you were saying, very strong to the left, and the other one was very strong to the right. And when the election was over, and I don't even remember now which one it was because it was a while ago, but one person called the other, and the person who received the call said, "I didn't think that you called me because my person won, and that you were so far on the other side that we wouldn't be talking." And my friend, both of them are friends, but my friend who made the call broke down and cried. And she said, "How could you ever feel that my love for you would be influenced by the politics. And I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was something that really stayed with me in my heart, because these were two ladies who really cared about each other. And they were so far apart. I don't know how they stayed friends, that way, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful
And
moment.
again, talking about the world that we live in, and and I think I was attracted to this book because of the world that we're in now. Being able to recognize, the humanity in someone you disagree with is challenging, but so needed. Because we live in a world that wants to dehumanize, and that's that message of dehumanize the other as much as you can, as hard as you can. And that's one of the challenges I think we're facing in the world we're living in.
Absolutely.
So we talked about, love, but the Torah also talks about loving the stranger. Why do you think, and Held addresses this in this book, why do we have so much emphasis, more than any other commandment, to love the stranger?
Doesn't he use the word that they're vulnerable?
They are
So
vulnerable.
it's a little bit different from, some random person on the street. It's someone you see who has a vulnerability that you need to tend to. And I thought that was interesting, moving, touching way of looking at it. And in a way, see my neighbor as a vulnerable person, even though his ideas disagree strongly with mine. But I think when you see that someone's vulnerable, or allow yourself to see that aspect of them, you treat them
The Torah
with more love and kindness.
keeps reminding us, and it's true up to the present day, that we were strangers.
That's also.
Yes, we were
And
strangers.
in many countries except Israel, we're still regarded as strangers.
Sure.
Jews are, the rise of anti-Semitism around the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've been a stranger, like where I didn't speak the language or could not read. Coming from being an educated person and then being in a position where I could not read and couldn't speak the language for a year, and it was really intimidating. And I mean, I was fortunate to be in a position where I had some support for people that did, my entire year wasn't just immersed into this, but for people that don't have that is, I mean, you don't even know when you're going somewhere what it is exactly. You have to try to figure it out. You don't know the product that you're going to buy, what that is. You can't read the signs on the road. I mean, there's a lot that and we're talking about, it wasn't even the same alphabet. Okay, it wasn't even the same alphabet. You couldn't even copy it down properly. It was so that's intimidating. That's a literal stranger, as a foreigner stranger. But what about the strangers that are hungry or needy? Or
I'd like to know some tips on how to love somebody or to see their humanity. For instance, an anti-Semite who's just really blatant. Are there any tips on how you can see their humanity?
Well, I think what Steve says is, I think what's important about that example you gave is that's for us, is that's a personal attack. I mean, someone who personally is attacking us, and that is a real challenge, because this person is expressing their enmity towards us as individuals. And we're supposed to turn around and say, I love you? I'm not so certain Held, at least in his book, is ready to say, you have to love them back.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that.
He said
That-
he does.
Well,
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can if somebody is like intent to harm you, like like in the
That's right.
moment. I don't
Yeah.
think that. I don't
you
think.
also need to be
I don't
not
think you
stupid.
can.
but
Yeah,
what-
Jonathan?
This isn't about how to deal with someone who's actively anti-Semitic toward you, but I know in the conflict resolution world, often people who work at conflict resolution with where people have very differing views, opposite sides, of things. One thing they'll emphasize is trying to understand someone else's story. That if you understood the story of someone's life, if you hear the narrative of how they became who they became and why they became that, it makes it much easier. It makes it, you can develop a kind, doesn't mean you're going to agree with them on everything or you should agree with everything, but it helps you see the humanity of them.
become curious.
Yeah, if you can explore why, how they evolved to be who they were.
Huh. That's a good tip.
And not always easy to accomplish, though. I mean, if you don't have that opportunity to engage with that person,
Yes.
and it's at a
Yeah.
distance. I mean, it's one thing to do it when you're in a dialogue or in a forced dialogue. It's another thing if it's someone who is in
Just
a
shooting off
community
their
far
mouth,
away, right?
Or even up front, who doesn't give you an opportunity for any dialogue.
Yeah.
You can't even ask questions of them because they're always doing all the talking.
It's interesting. Go ahead.
I would think that in a case like that, you're being attacked. You're not going to change that person's mind in any way whatsoever. If they're attacking you, they're very passionate about what they're doing. The best thing to do is to protect yourself and avoid them. Maybe that's not Jewish, maybe that's not humanity, but that's what I would do.
I think he would say
They always-
it's Jewish because you have to love yourself.
Well, love yourself is
And
more.
you have to
You have
think
to
that you're a
protect
person of worth.
Right.
Nice point. Yeah,
Again, in the
nice point.
Circle Minion, we were talking one time, and we talked about Elie Wiesel, and he
Yeah.
was some Nazi was on his deathbed, and he asked for to have a Jew, and
Yes.
was seeking forgiveness, and we sat
Yes.
around the Circle Minion, and
Yes.
I mean, everybody had an opinion, and I thought about it, and I thought, I would go and meet the person, and I would listen to what they were saying and how they felt. They're on their deathbed, and if I felt like it was really like something like a real sincere, I mean, you still have to take your punishment, the consequences of what you did, but I think I could say, I could see if I could see the humanity in the person, even, I think I probably could forgive people, if they really were seeking, reconciliation and peace,
Elie Wiesel did not, however.
He did not.
He did
So
not.
I
He did, and didn't he say he didn't know what to say?
No,
Did he
well,
walk
no,
away?
I thought he said that it wasn't up to him to
Right, to
forgive.
forgive, because it,
Right.
That wasn't his.
yes,
Yeah.
I thought
think the book
well
you're
said is-
referencing may be Simon Wiesenthal's The Sunflower, not Elie Wiesel. I could
Yeah,
be
I
wrong.
think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy in our society. I'm just saying, like, personal experiences. I think it's easy in our society because we're glued to social media and the propaganda. For me, they're on all the news channels. It doesn't matter if you're to the left, to the right, or wherever you are. It's all propaganda. So people get fed hatred from both sides all the time. But I look at it like on a daily basis. Most people, I mean, I arrived here, we in Los Angeles with an 8 and a 9-year-old, and we're moving into an apartment in Los Angeles. The next day there's an apartment. And there's a man, I don't know who he is, I have no clue what he is, and he says, I run this my own business. I have a truck. I go to the market. I get orange juice, milk, and vegetables and stuff, and I deliver it to customers. So that's the service that he gives. Listen, I heard your New Year. I still get tear. He said, I heard your New Year. For 1 full year, he delivered milk in glass jars, orange juice in glass jars, and whatever fruit or vegetables we wanted for the week for free.
Oh my goodness.
Another knock on the door. This is and it's not even an affluent, it's not a bad, but it's a middle class neighborhood. Knock on the door. And it's a guy who works for Redken. He's a representative with a cart full of products, of shampoos, anything you can use, body wash, everything, Redken products. Delivered for free, came every week. Wow. So there are good people. We just don't hear of them. Do you know what I'm saying? There are really good people. Didn't know me from anything. That was the first and second day we were there. And I'll never forget these people. So I think we need to do what he says, rather look at the love that there is and the love that we can give rather than be propagandized into hate on whichever side of the political spectrum you are.
But let me also just say, you know, I like what you said very much about, we have to remember that.
That's correct.
And so much of our Jewish tradition is about memory and remembrance. And so let us understand that memory and remembrance is part of this message of love.
That's correct.
You know, and it's not just, we're not just sitting down at the Seder once again to celebrate that we're free. Mm-hmm. We're sitting down at the Seder once again to recall that we were strangers and that we were depending on God, and that we were in an oppressed state, and there are still people in an oppressed state.
That's right.
And this is an expression, this memory is not just because we're people who remember, but because it's love.
Absolutely.
So after reading the book, is there anything that changed you or that opened up a thought for you about Judaism and love, or not? Don't have
Well,
to have.
may I?
Yeah.
This is going back to sort of the Exodus narrative and thinking a little bit about, I'll say, what history Judaism uses and how we think about history. I mean, part of Held's basic framework is, he would say Judaism is about love because God redeemed us from Egypt, right? God loved us to redeem us from Egypt, or loved us by giving us Torah at Sinai. So it's kind of a God in history who loved the Jewish people. He has one reference really to the Holocaust in his whole book. And, you know, for many people, this question of how are you saying God loves a people when, I mean, you know, there are different responses to it. But that to me was a question that sat as I read his book. You know, is sort of thinking, what does it mean that God loves the Jewish people? Do you believe God acted in history at this time, but not in history at another time? I know it's somewhat of a different conversation, but that was one question I had, is how he thinks about God's role in history, and is it consistent? Can you put these things together?
Good question.
It's a great it's a great question. I mean, the only thing I would say is that who would ever, I don't think anybody would have any assumption that love is anything less but extremely complicated. And I don't care if that is, you know, a love between individuals who are in a loving relationship or between us and God. And and there are moments where that are clear and understandable in any loving relationship, and moments that are as foggy and as obtuse and as difficult to understand. I think the Holocaust being an example of beyond our ability to understand. And I don't think, I think that we can't take that entire experience and say, let me find love in it, but we may be able to, in any tragedy, say there were moments of love between individuals and experiences.
Go ahead.
Well, I thought about, let's